Welcome to Learning Unit number 2. In Learning Unit number 2, we're going to talk about workforce issues. Specifically, we are looking at nursing staffing and we are looking at the AACN's standards for healthy work environments, HWE. Now, for those nurse educators, when we say AACN, we typically mean the American Association of Colleges of Nursing. For nurses in clinical practice, most nurses are aware that AACN then means the American Association of Critical Care Nurses. And those are the writers of these standards, the American Association of Colleges of Nursing. So we're looking at healthy work environments and how they impact on patient safety, and we're going to really focus in on nurse staffing. So we're not going to be able to get into the literature as much as I would like about nurse staffing and healthy work environments, but we are getting a more general idea about what makes up a healthy work environment and what we can do to promote healthy work environments in our practice. So let's look at what the learning activities are. You're watching this video. This is the second time I'm doing the video because, of course, I didn't have the right recorder on. So I did a video that had no sound. But anyways, we're moving on. And the first thing you're going to do is look at Chapter 16 in our Understanding Patient Safety book. And that is on workforce issues. There's a lot of good material in there. Again, you're getting this through our library database, so you can look at the instructions for how to access that chapter. And then there are two folders, nurse staffing and healthy work environments. And let's look at the nurse staffing because I've located a wonderful online source that is up to date, because otherwise I was piecemealing things because there's been so much change. But nurse staffing ratios by state, and you can see it was updated in 2026. Now this site is the nurse license guide, and I had not been familiar with the nurse license guide, but I'm very impressed by this, what they have posted here, and I'm beginning to look at some other issues about licensure that they offer. So the current landscape, it's going to talk about states that have mandatory staffing ratios, and at this time there are just a few states. California has had mandatory, regulated minimum ratios of all hospital units since 2004. And I believe it has made a huge difference in both the life and the experience of nurses practicing in that state. And then there is now more and more research that's been done that also shows an enhancement in patient outcomes, multiple patient outcomes, and patient safety. But you're going to look briefly at that. You can see about Massachusetts and Oregon. They do have some mandatory ratios, but very specific units only. And here are the ratios that are mandated in California. I will tell you that my daughter had surgery for colorectal cancer 2 years ago. She's doing great. But she lives in and she lives in San Diego, California. And I experienced amazing, amazing nursing care throughout the time I was with her and her surgery in every aspect. And the nurses were happy. They were engaged. They were fantastic educators because they had the time to commit to educating their patients. It was an amazing experience. So I am definitely one time. It was just one case, right? An N of one of my experience, but it was pretty impressive. I will admit. So these are the staffing mandatory staffing requirements, and again, these are at all times that there is this mandate. So you can read through, but continue going because then there's states with staffing committee requirements. You can look to see when they were enacted, and some states, such as Connecticut, require at least 50% of direct care nurses be part of these staffing committees. Other states do not. You can look at this information. So here's some more information about disclosure or reporting requirements, and then legislation. Federal and state level bills, as it states, are introduced regularly. Some of them are revised, some are don't go any further. They can come back the next year. So you're going to, legislation changes really frequently. So you want to look a little bit more in depth if you're interested in this information. But you can see New York State and Pennsylvania at the time of this website going up or this information going up, did have proposed ratios on a bill. So, but things do change very quickly. And then there's briefly what does the evidence say? What does the research say about staffing? And you're going to see some California outcome data. And you're going to see some other Linda Aiken study in 2014. I do believe she's done another study since that time regarding staffing. But the evidence isn't perfect. And how does this impact nurses and impact on salary, giving the hospital perspective? So there's a lot of really good information in this site, and I was thrilled to be able to read through it. So that is the first link. The second is a brief video that I found very positive, and you can listen to Christine Schulman talk about viewing staffing as an investment, not merely an operational expense. So I think you'll enjoy that video. That's it for the staffing. Healthy work environments, of course, I probably should have had this on top. We should really start with that because this is the AACN's standards. So you can see there's 6 standards for healthy work environments: skilled communication, collaboration, decision making, leadership, meaningful recognition, and of course, appropriate staffing. So please click on each one. I'm going to click on appropriate staffing because I want to show you what I found that I thought was pretty impressive. So they talk about what is the definition. What did the AACN mean when they said appropriate staffing? What are the elements? Now, these HWE standards from the AACN were originated in 2005. They were updated in 2016, and each standard has the definition, but it has an action. What are the actions for organizations? What are the actions for individuals? And this is where I located a very recent, it was uploaded 3 weeks ago. So a 2026 video by Nancy Blake. She just retired from California, LA General Hospital, I believe she had worked at, and speaking about appropriate staffing. Now I have that video, and let me just go back. I have that video outlined right here. It's the same video as you just saw. This is where I took it from. It is 52 minutes. Do your best to at least get through the first 10 minutes or so to best understand the standards, because she briefly reviews those to start. And I hope you get pulled in and you'll want to listen to this. But I thought it was a very up to date, important video to talk about healthy work environments. And let's just get out of here and keep going. So then our discussion board. So you can read this information, but based on what you've learned, you're going to do two things. You're going to do an initial post and you're going to do a reply, and they're going to be different. So in your initial post, which is due by Friday evening, to give everybody some time to reply. If they're not due until Sunday evening, sometimes there's only one student who would have it available for you to read, so it's going to be difficult to reply. So that's why I ask, please do your best to have your initial post by Friday evening. As a nurse manager, leader, or educator, which healthy work environment standard would you prioritize to enhance a healthy work environment, and why? Be specific in how you selected your standard, how it could improve patient safety, teamwork, nurse well-being, quality outcomes within a healthcare setting. Now, I recognize and I'm excited to have this two different programs, both our education masters and our leadership masters, come together for many core courses, and this is one. So if you're an educator, I ask that you try to look at it a little bit more through the lens of clinical practice, but be creative. Answer as best as you can and what is meaningful to you. But then by Sunday evening, this one is a bit more specific to a staffing ratio. So if you're an educator, think about whether you're taking new nurses or student nurses to clinicals, or whether you're educating new orientees, etc. But share the state in which you practice and your perspective on mandatory staffing ratios versus staffing committees. Which approach would you prefer to see implemented in your state, and why? Be specific. If you're supporting mandatory staffing ratios, tell me a state model that you believe would work well in your practice setting and explain why. If you prefer staffing committees, maybe you work in a rural hospital, and we all know that rural hospitals are being closed at high rates due to costs. And so perhaps you might feel that a staffing committee might be the best option for a rural hospital that's having financial issues, and describe how they could also effectively support safe staffing and patient care outcomes. So that will be in your reply to a different classmate. You can go off on this tangent here, and this is the original post. So thank you for paying attention and for listening, and I will try to shorten my videos. And please know, for every practicum module, what you're going through those practicum modules self-paced, that you can there will be a video. Have a good day.